Has legalistic leadership adversely affected you? Welcome to the Daily Devo. I'm Vince Miller. This week we have been in 1 Samuel chapter 14. I've titled this chapter A Contrast of Leadership Between Jonathan and Saul. Now, in the first part of chapter 14, we witnessed Jonathan, who acted in faith, and God did some pretty incredible things through them. Now, in the second part of chapter 14, Saul, well, he engages in the story now and he flubs everything up. Saul cuts off a priest who is in the middle of his priestly duties because he can see the chaos ensuing in the enemy camp. So they head off in hot pursuit of the Philistines. But before they go, Saul ushers in this vow or this oath. He makes the people swear that they will not eat until his enemy is defeated. So we saw last time that this was really an unnecessary oath, an unnecessary vow, promoted all from Saul's self-interest. And his son Jonathan knows that this is why he's doing it. Now the people are very, very weak. And here's what happens next in verses 31 down through 35. They struck down the Philistines that day from Michmash to Ajalon, and the people were very faint, so they're weak. The people pounced on the spoil and took sheep and oxen and calves and slaughtered them on the ground, and the people ate them with the blood. I'll get to that in just a moment. Then they told Saul, "Behold, the people are sinning against the Lord by eating with the blood." And he said, "You have dealt treacherously. Roll a great stone to me here." And Saul said, "Disperse yourselves among the people and say to them, let every man bring his ox or his sheep and slaughter them here and eat, and do not sin against the Lord by eating with the blood." So every one of the people brought his ox with him that night, and they slaughtered them there. And Saul built an altar to the Lord. It was the first altar he built to the Lord. So let me say here that it kind of sounds like they're eating raw flesh, but they're not. They're not cannibals in the situation. Actually, what's happening is they simply had not allowed all the blood to drain from the animals before they were cooking it. These men were starving, so it led them to rush into this moment, which led to sin. Now, we have all encountered moments like this. Not exactly like this, but close. We have all been so hungry or waited so long to eat that when we finally got in front of food, we couldn't stop eating. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, there's plenty of times that I've been so hungry that I walk into the pantry and I'll eat an entire family-sized bag of potato chips. I know you've done that too. And there have been a lot of times that I've waited so long to get a meal at my table that when the food finally got there, I rushed to eat, and I ate beyond my capacity to the point I couldn't even move. I maybe even want to throw up, right? Now, when you set excessive amounts of food before a group of hungry men who are exhausted, we should expect them to rush into eating and rush into sin. And that's exactly what has happened here. All of a sudden, these men are exhausted and they're tired. They have fasted too long, and now they're sitting in front of excessive amounts of food, so they rush in to sin by eating the blood. And not even that. I mean, on top of it, Saul's blaming them for his leading them into sin. And this is terrible leadership right here. I mean, Saul ruined a great story and a great moment. I mean, had he not mandated this vow, think about how awesome the story would have ended. Jonathan and his armor bearer sneak away. And then they take steps of courageous faith. They seek God. They climb a cliff into battle. The two men slaughter 20 men. Then all of a sudden, the Hebrew turncoats in the Philistine ranks turn on the garrison. Then outside tribes join in. Saul sees the commotion, hustles over. And even in the moment of need, God provided some pretty natural provision in the form of honey for that last push in battle. And finally, there is this complete defeat and plunder. 600 men in this instance have defeated 36,000 men and send them running. But the whole story is ruined by an oppressive and a selfish vow that should never have been issued. And then Saul blames his men for rushing to eat. Legalistic leaders forbid freedoms that God grants. Let me say that again. Legalistic leaders forbid freedoms that God grants. They forbid freedom to control situations and people and outcomes. However, sometimes these restrictions, they backfire, tempting people to break with legalism and do things that God forbids. This is exactly what happened here with Saul. His vow led the people into sin. Even worse, Saul doesn't take ownership of the policy that led his people into the sin. He blames them. Saul played God, thus ruining a great moment where God did something great. You see it? Saul played God, thus ruining a great moment where God did something great. One tension in leadership is knowing how to best lead a person or people to victory. Some only need to know the goal. Others need tangible steps, and still others need these protective boundaries. It's different for every single person, but as leaders, we have to make sure our attitude and our heart are in the right place as we make these decisions. Saul instituted his vow out of selfish intent. He wasn't concerned about God or his victory. He was only worried about himself, his image, and his victory over his enemy. Just go back to chapter 14, verse 24. If you lead one or many, today I just want you to pay attention to your heart. There may be one who is challenging for you to lead. Be careful how you speak and lead them. Let the Spirit have control and stop being purposefully oppressive and passively aggressive. Stop being purposefully oppressive and passively aggressive. If you do, your legalistic plan might blow up on you. It might backfire and draw unneeded attention to your selfishness and your sin. I love you guys. I pray this has blessed you. If it has, share it with someone else. And I'll see you right back here.